Yes, it's too.
I think this is something that Jesus, that they would eat back in Jesus' time. Because they said
Tell me when we're ready, Sharon.
You're ready.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Welcome here to St. Columba's. Those of you from the local congregation and those of you that come from St. James Waimea. Wonderful to be here. And what a delight it has been to share in that wonderful pupu that's been prepared for us here in person tonight. And those of you online, all I can say is you missed a treat. We didn't, we enjoyed it. So, again, thank you to those who prepared and served it and put it out for us. I'm going to begin with a change to the programme. Because St. James is being tented this week, and there therefore won't be a gathering at St. James on Wednesday night for this Lent programme, I brought next week's programme forward to tonight. Okay. And the one that I would have been giving this week, had tenting not happened, we will have next week. And the reason for that is folks here at St. Columba's will be okay because I've got printed booklets for next week. But at St. James, where it'll be going out online, Bobby needs to help me with the technology to get 4 images online. Given that that couldn't happen this week, I've switched weeks 3 and 4 around. So you're getting, so this is slightly out of sequence with the events of our Lord's Passion during Holy Week, but no harm in that. So tonight, for those of you with Bibles online, the passage we're looking at is John 19, verses 38 to 42. So John 19, 38 to 42. And if you read it for us, and the microphone should pick you up.
After these things, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, though a secret one because of his fear of the Jews, asked Pilate to let him take away the body of Jesus. Pilate gave him permission, so he came and removed his body. Nicodemus, who had at first come to Jesus by night, also came, bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, weighing about 100 pounds. They took the body of Jesus and wrapped it with the spices in linen cloths, according to the burial custom of the Jews. Now there was a garden in the place where he was crucified, and in the garden there was a new tomb in which no one had ever been laid. And so, because it was the Jewish day of preparation, and the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there.
A newspaper editor friend of mine many years ago said to me that the one thing that sells newspapers is stories about people. And in that gospel passage that we've just heard read, 2 absolutely fascinating people are named: Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus. So, let's have a little bit of learning, as far as we can, about these 2 individuals. And there are some others who must have been there, but who aren't really mentioned at all. I'll come to those quite close to the end. From what we've just heard read, after these things, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, though a secret one, because of fear of the Jews, asked Pilate to let him take away the body of Jesus. So Joseph of Arimathea is the first person we're going to look at. But his story has always fascinated me, because up to that point in the Gospels, we don't really know very much about him. Arimathea isn't all that far from Jerusalem, so you can say he was a local boy. We know, though, he was a disciple of Jesus. There was secret one. We don't know what he did for a living. We know nothing about his family. And we can guess that he hadn't walked around with Jesus in the way that the well-known disciples had, because he is described as being secret, therefore not wanting to be in the public gaze. And I wonder, how many more secret disciples might there have been at the time? There's another reference in John 12, verse 42, where it says, many, even of the authorities, believed in Jesus. But because of the Pharisees, they did not confess it, for fear they would be put out of the synagogue. So it was clear. Jesus had followers, secret ones. Now, I'll come back to this and to Joseph of Arimathea in a moment, but I'd like to bring the focus back here in the room just for a moment. But to be personal first of all, back in the UK, if I'm on public transport, that might be a train or it might be a bus, most likely a train, because I prefer trains.
Especially in Scotland.
I tend not to wear a clerical collar. I like to be secret when I'm on public transport. That's because it's not unknown for someone to latch onto you and to want to tell you their life story. And when Aberdeen really was the oil capital of Europe, in a sense it still is, but it really was big. Drunken oil riggers coming ashore from the many rigs that were out in the North Sea would invariably have had perhaps a little bit too much to drink, and the risk was that they would start sharing their problems in a somewhat loud voice on the train, asking you to sort it out, sort out their problems. So, in public transport, I liked to be a secret disciple. By contrast, however, when I was rector of a church, in fact, even when I was a bishop, and I do it here as well, I used to get robed up, full kit, quite early. Now I go out onto the sidewalk and greet folks as they arrived, waving to passing traffic as well. Why not? In that context, I was totally content to be a fully open and available public disciple, easily visualized. Can any of you recognize any of this in yourselves?
Yeah.
Beginning. Who wants to admit to being a secret disciple? And if so, when? Brian, and then Janice.
Well, I do not hide my affection for my Savior.
Yeah.
But I do confess, when people start talking about using me for I don't know what it is, a dartboard, I'm not sure.
Something.
I don't have enough patience. And I admit it. And I bet I will have enough tomorrow.
So what you've done there, Brian, is quite helpfully draw a distinction between a secret disciple is someone who would never deny their Saviour, but would rather not have to engage in a public conversation in a way that could prove offensive, embarrassing, whatever. Yeah.
Well, I kind of test people out.
Okay.
You know, I mentioned God as I did this morning, and bless you and things like that.
Yeah.
And some people, you know, really just shut up, and I don't go on if they do.
Okay. So there's a courtesy issue. Yeah, good. Candice, you should.
Kind of the same.
Kind of the same, yeah.
I'm a new Christian in that many years I did not believe. I was a cradle Episcopalian, but Sunday school never took hold. And I became a mocker.
Okay.
I identified with Paul, and you know, I didn't have that suddenly
No.
blinded because I couldn't see it because I came here. It became a gradual. So I'm still gradually learning with gratitude. And my friendships here in this church and beyond, it's quite a path to look behind me and see only Jesus' footsteps carrying me along.
That's
But
interesting.
I am learning still to open myself up to comments, and so I deliberately, because I have a platform at the Saturday market in my mail. That's my place of testimony, and I say God bless you to everybody. Auntie Joe taught me that, and you'd be surprised. I've been surprised by the number of people who are shocked by hearing that, in that they don't hear it all the time. And they will, you know, as they're leaving my table, God bless you, thank you, you know. And they suddenly realize it's okay to say that. I was a member of the Episcopal Curcio for quite a number of years, and I remember the first time at the first retreat in 1991 that I found out that every single one of us, we had different tables that we sat at every meal. And one of us would have to get up and give an extemporaneous grace, prayer of grace. That first one that was a form of blindness. I couldn't get my tongue around a lot of the things that I had already even learned from these people, you know. Mine was not the first prayer of the first meal, but I gradually have learned to be able to let my heart speak that way. And so that has opened me up to so many people, especially what I do with portraits and things like that. It's connected me with people.
Thank you. That's absolutely fascinating
So
story, John. Thank you.
I'm not kidding you. I'm trying to get more open all the time.
I began by asking people want to admit to being a secret disciple, and we've had two wonderful testimonies. Anyone want to expand that into being prepared quite openly to be a public disciple? You're nodding. You're not nervous.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, give a little history here. I was not baptized until 2019.
Wow.
My father was a Mormon, and my mother in the later years, she stubborn. I guess maybe she was raised Mormon, because my grandmother, I know, attended a Mormon church in Laurier on Oahu. There was no real religion practiced at home at all. So my bigger influence was with my girlfriend. She was Catholic, so I always went to church with her.
Uh-huh.
And then later, I saw it on my own, and I went to some Christian churches, which was good. But then I didn't find the warmth as I found at St. James. And I went forward to be baptized by Father David into Episcopal Church. As far I always like to listen to services through my life pad. I always enjoyed that. But didn't know, I knew who Jesus Christ was, but that's about it. And as far as being public, I lack confidence in that. The love is there, but the knowledge is lacking. So I feel that I open up when people come to me with sorrow. When there's sorrow, then
That's so important.
yeah, I open up then and try to pray for them and try to be there for them. To me, that's the only way you can show your true Christian values, to share that time with them.
Well, God's greatest gift to people is
Yeah,
love.
yeah.
And love is nothing if it's not shared and shown.
By your actions, they will know you.
Yeah, by their actions you'll know them. And absolutely what you do in respect to the bookstore on the St James campus is an astonishing witness. And I heard you saying earlier about the number of books that you send over to prisons on mainland.
I think it's a natural talent for me to organize what was going on or was not going on. I never complain. The only complaint I might have is if somebody drops off 15 cases of children's books and we don't have the space for that. But we've learned how to deal with that, and we are fortunate. Teachers come in, doctors come in for their waiting rooms to provide, because the prices are so low.
Prices are fantastic. If you're looking online, 50 cents for a paperback, $1 for a hardback.
Yeah.
The whole shop.
Yeah.
Unless it's a special edition of anything.
And we don't lack for that donations in all the genres. We don't lack.
No.
They just keep coming in. It's just a matter of maintaining and keeping the inventory fresh for the repeat customers.
Well, that really is a very open way of being a disciple.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So it's a natural talent for me to do that.
That's wonderful. Well,
That as an operations manager, you make sure that things are fresh and keep going. Yeah. And
Thank
for me, the real treasure is being able to provide for the prisoners.
yeah.
Because you never think what they're experiencing and what they're lacking. Too much idle time, and even giving children's books to them so that they can bond with their children when they come to visit. That's a big, big thing.
It really is huge. Anyway.
Sorry.
No, that's wonderful to hear it. I mean, that's 3 fantastic testimonies.
Can I say something?
Please.
I don't even know if you know it, but whenever I start a new job, I will not tell anybody what my husband does. because I want to be judged by who I am, rather than them think that I am just an appendage of him. Yeah. And so they have to find out, and I don't go and really share my faith until they come to me and I've had some time for them to get to know me without.
Yeah, and we've got 3 sons, and the middle one's a high school teacher, and I forget what the issue was, but I appeared on the television shouting off about something or other. I can't remember what it was genuinely. And the next day at his school, one of his colleagues said to him, "Is your dad a bishop?" So that was his cover blown. Anyway, thank you all for that. Digging a little bit deeper into this gospel passage, the one we heard read. This secret disciple, Joseph of Arimathea, at the death of Jesus, was no longer a secret disciple. He'd come out into the open. Why? And how do we know? Because he went to Pontius Pilate or to one of Pontius Pilate's henchmen who could enact Pilate's orders. And he asked for the body of Jesus so that he could bury the body. Now, that's not a secret act. That is pretty well in the open. So if Joseph of Arimathea had once been a secret disciple, he no longer was. And remember what happened in Gethsemane. All the disciples scattered.
Yeah.
Joseph of Arimathea came in, not all that many hours, after the rest of them had cleared off and scattered. And his actions were in full view, taking a dead body away. You cannot hide the fact that you're carrying a dead body. It's a fairly obvious fact. So, two contrasts. The one secret disciple now in the open, and the other disciples previously in the open are now hiding in secret, as we're told elsewhere in the Gospels. They were behind locked doors for fear of the Jews. There's contrast for you. Don't ask any questions at this point. I mean, we've had some really good exchanges, and Frankie, you look as though you're about to say something.
Well, I get the feeling that Joseph knew Nicodemus.
I'm coming to Nicodemus in a minute.
Yeah, but I think they knew each other.
It looks like it. Yeah.
Why would he show up to help with spices? Unless they had discussed it beforehand.
And made the arrangements. Yeah. We're not told that sort of thing in the Gospel, but it's always worth thinking about the backstory, as we might call it. What things were going on that led up to the events that actually are recorded. So yeah. Did Joseph of Arimathea know Nicodemus? Probably, because the two of them got together, as we'll hear in a minute, to bury Jesus with all of those spices. Any other questions or comments?
I will thank you again for emphasizing backstory.
All right.
I just read.
Yeah.
Try to fix it in my mind, but you fix it much better.
The backstory could never be given as the actual recording, the actual truth of what happened. But it is worth always looking at the backstory, or to consider if there might be 2 or 3 options for a backstory, and considering what they might be. So yeah, I enjoy doing it. Yeah, please, go on.
Wasn't Nicodemus kind of a secret disciple?
I'm coming to it.
Okay.
That's a perfect lead into the next paragraph.
Okay.
So the next person I want to look at is Nicodemus. We know from the Gospels that he was a Pharisee and a leader of the Jews. And Nicodemus is interesting because he had previously sought Jesus out. In John 3, Nicodemus' discussion with Jesus is presented as a discreet conversation, a hidden conversation, one that took place in the shadows of a dark evening, because he went to see Jesus under cover of darkness, secretly, absolutely. Remember, there'd been no street lights. I think I mentioned this the other week. So he'd not wanted his visit to Jesus to be known about. So if not an actual disciple at that point, he wasn't wanting his visit to be known about. We might call him a secret inquirer. And then again in John 7, when the Pharisees were wanting to arrest Jesus, somewhat arbitrarily on some trumped-up charges, it was Nicodemus who spoke up for Jesus, saying that due and proper process of the law had to take place. You can't just suddenly grab somebody off the street and arrest them. There has to be due and proper process. And Nicodemus, therefore, because what he said held, we can take it that he was an individual of some importance. What he said counted. Yet here he was, although he'd gone originally to see Jesus under cover of darkness, here he was with Joseph of Arimathea in full public gaze, clearly now unafraid of the consequences for him in his professional position and public standing, bringing spices and such like to anoint the body of Jesus. And this opens up another contrast. The Jewish leader, Nicodemus, previously discreet and who came to meet Jesus under cover of darkness, is now in the open, prepared to stand up and be counted, openly willing to show his respect for this man who his own temple authorities had handed over to the Romans and who the Romans had then executed under a mocking sign saying, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. Nicodemus had, you might say, moved from darkness to light. The contrast between dark and light being a key feature of John's Gospel. Another thing I think it's worth pointing out, we've heard it mentioned, is the vast quantity of spices that were used to anoint the body of Jesus prior to his burial. £100 is an amount given. I've heard low estimates of £50 or maybe £75 in weight. Whatever, even if it's £50, that is a lot of spices to carry for two people if you've also got a dead body to carry.
Don't forget the dead body.
It's a big lala.
So this weight, not insurmountable in itself, but if combined with the unyielding weight of a dead body, would make it impossible for Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus to carry it, just the two of them. So, we can surmise, and here's a bit more of a backstory, we can surmise that there were others who helped them. They're not mentioned, we don't know it for certain, but on the basis of how on earth do you carry a dead person, and even if it's only £50, but it could be 100, weight of spices, how can two people manage that unless they had help? Secret disciples, unnamed disciples. You heard me talking here in Powillo on Sunday morning. I know you didn't in Waimea, but here I did in about Donald Rumsfeld's known unknowns. These are unknown knowns, these secret disciples, unnamed disciples who helped Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea. And I often muse upon the fact that on the whole, it is not big name church leaders who hand on the faith from one generation to another. It is the millions and millions of people in local congregations who do the very necessary things for Jesus by passing on the word of faith from one generation to another. Those ladies on the wall, for example. What you are doing here in St. Columba's, the terrific stuff up at St. James, Waimea, and the quite remarkable beach mass as an open-air testimony of faith. Big church leaders can be involved in those things, but it's the day by day, the week by week, and the month by month, and year by year evangelism that each of you do, all of you do, that ensures the faith is carried on from one generation to the next. I'll just pause there a little, because some of you may want to reflect something back or ask another question, maybe.
It's beautiful. That momentum, that expression of Jesus' example, beautiful. Obviously.
Thank you, brother. Any other reflection from any of you?
I remember once when some people like Makawana went out to lunch we went in Hilo, and so we ate at McDonald's in the Walmart store. And then, before we ate, we said grace, and then somebody noticed us saying grace, and they made a law and said, he said, "We need more of that."
Simple acts like that, Frankie, to me they're like gold dust, really are.
They're often more powerful than somebody standing up and preaching, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I've not the slightest doubt.
They can hear you.
I've not the slightest doubt that there will not be a single sermon I've ever preached that will be remembered. But you preach them on the day, for the moment, and that's what's expected. And then people like me leave, go back to the UK or whatever, and you carry on with the work here. Yeah.
And patience.
Patience, absolutely. Anyway, this leads on to something else. Because we've got all these rich spices being used as part of the burial rite for Jesus. Well, we've already indicated the sheer quantity of the spices being used. And that points to the fact that Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea considered Jesus, the person they were burying, to be someone special. Because, in fairness, there would have been no such extravagance for the likes of, let's say, an ordinary person. They wouldn't have done that for me. But they considered Jesus to be someone special, hence the sheer volume of spices. They considered Jesus to be someone very different, someone deserving of that extravagance. Quick question. When else in the Gospels might you associate rich spices and gifts coming Jesus' way?
The 3 wise men.
3 wise men, absolutely, gold, frankincense and myrrh.
And not at his birth. They traveled for 2 years to get to him?
Well, we don't know how long they travelled, but they certainly travelled a long way. But they arrived some 12 days into his life. 12 days of Christmas. That's when those wise men are given to arrive. But there were still gifts for a king at his birth. In fact, the Eastern Orthodox Church recognises Christmas on the 12th day, on our 12th day, when the wise men came. We do it when the shepherds came, fine. They do it when the kings. No harm.
I think there is another story that it is longer than that, because they couldn't have traversed that distance.
Oh, no.
12 days.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't travelling by Delta. That was camel. But these were gifts. The gold, frankincense and myrrh were gifts fit for a king. Given to a king, quote unquote, at his birth. And here we have at his death, spices fit for a very superior person. In fact, a king's burial. Rich gifts given at his birth, rich gifts provided at his death. The contrast, or perhaps the counterpoise is a better word, between the birth and the death of this king is quite remarkable, because Jesus was not a king in the earthly sense of things. His messiahship rested on his being God's word for the salvation of the world. And he did it through loving service, through teaching, through witnessing, through being with people, very often people on the margins of society. So it was a king who didn't look like or even behave like a king conventionally understood, but was someone who modelled service and witness to other people around him. The contrast, therefore, another contrast between earthly kingship and God's servant kingship. So it wasn't the 12 disciples who had walked and listened to the talk of Jesus who saw fit to bury him, but rather these two committed Jews and arguably any number of unknown associates with them. They saw something in Jesus at his death that the disciples didn't immediately see. So it was correct, according to Jewish conventions and practice and requirements at the time, that Jesus be buried when he was, rather than, as was the Roman preference, to leave the dead body up on the cross as an example to the rest. Why was Jesus' body released? Pilate was possibly wanting not to incur the displeasure from any quarter of the Jewish community, so he would probably see no harm on this one occasion, just a one-off, in releasing this particular body. It would be the quietest way to let the situation go away, totally forgotten by everybody, and we can just get on with life. What will these hands now be clean? Poor old Pilate, he got that one wrong, didn't he? He wanted to keep things quiet. Well, it didn't quite work out. God had another idea. And we've got these two relatively obscure individuals and some unknown ones who were prepared to lend a hand and do for Jesus what needed to be done. I'm going to offer a short meditation in a minute, but let me just ask if any of you got any questions or thoughts or reflections back on what I've been saying, maybe the contrasts or maybe the spices at birth and at death, or the individuals involved. Go.
In reading those scriptures and hearing those scriptures again, something inside me just said that God made them see his son, and that's what motivated them to take the chance with their own reputations, their own lives, really, to do what was right. And I think because of who they were, they knew it was the right thing to do as well. But I really believe that it was maybe foretold somewhere that it would lead the Jews to Christ.
And these two, and others with them, received God's prompting to do what had to be done in the way they did it.
Yes.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you. Yeah.
From the foundations of the earth, before the foundations, those who would believe,
They will be put in place to do the job that needed to be done.
so few.
Yeah.
There's really just a few people involved in these little acts.
Yeah.
But look at centuries later. Praise God.
Any other thoughts?
There was no disciples at his crucifixion. It was John there, the favorite.
The story is that Mary and John, the beloved disciple, well, we think the beloved disciple is John, were at the foot of the cross, or near it. And there is in the Temple of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, which is the given site of the crucifixion, and probably is the site of the crucifixion, although a church has been built over the particular mound. About 20 yards away there is a position where it is believed that Mary and the beloved disciple stood and watched.
I'm a lightweight.
You're a lightweight, right?
I'm a lightweight. I forget how powerful God is. And the strength, the power, and He keeps it where humans need it, I think.
I think so.
Certainly where I am.
Just learning to tap into it. Just learning to tap it. Because it's
You
available.
tap into God's power.
Yeah, it's available to us all with prayer and faith. We just learn, all of us, I don't think I'll ever be finished becoming a Christian, I hope, until I'm there. It's a constant journey. And the strength, I would say, the more I believe, the more I believe. It's, like I said, communicative.
Lovely, generous thing. I'm going to move us into a meditation now. You've shared with me on these before. I always give a time in advance as to how long this will take place. So it's going to be 30 seconds, and that helps you to frame your thoughts. Because in a minute, I'm going to ask you to think of a time, either when you're a secret disciple or an open disciple. And there's going to be no questions about this, so it's entirely yourself. You won't have to be open about it. And whether you're a secret disciple or an open disciple, to remember a particular time when you were. I'll give 30 seconds for that, for you to identify which you were and to remember the moment, if that's the right way to put it. And then a further 30 seconds after that to give thanks to God in the way that you've been led from that moment to now. Is that clear enough? Yeah, you got it? You understand that? And those of you online, take part in this as well. The first 30 seconds to identify a time when you are either a secret disciple or an open disciple. And then after that, it will be a further 30 seconds for you to give thanks to God for the way God has led you from that moment to right now. Okay? So, just calm ourselves for a second or two. And in the 30 seconds following, identify that time when you are either the secret disciple or the disciple in the open. Just identify that moment when you were. Now the 30 seconds to come, explicitly give thanks to God for bringing you from that moment to where you are now. And come back to here and now. Deep breath. And thank you all very much indeed. Bless you all. It's a joy and a privilege it is to share all of this with you. Thank you. Next week, we will be looking at the possible reconciliation between Jesus and Judas Iscariot.
That's deep.
And let me say quite explicitly, it is frontline theology. Not technical, you'll enjoy it. But very few theologians anywhere have ever attempted what might be the reconciliation of Judas Iscariot. Very few.
Sounds pretty racy.
Have you been talking to Tracy? Because that was exactly the word that she used.
It must be racing.
That's conjecture.
Is Linda there? Is Linda viewing?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure. Well, hello, Hans, and good evening to all of you.
Isn't it 6 hours?